basketball fans. It's me, DC, here for Fantasy Basketball Analyzer to help you get ready for Week 18 in your likely playoff matchup for your fantasy basketball season. We're going to do waivers. It's going to be a little different this week. There's not a ton of like, hey, pick up this guy, whether it's points or categories, weekly or whatever. These are the great guys. So I really dove down there, especially because these weeks, if you're still alive, are going to be really important to get into the nitty gritty. So I'm going to fire off some names at the top, then do a lot more detail. But let's go ahead and get into it. Before I talk names, let's just do quick news that's going to impact your week next week, potentially. John Wall looks like he's already been ruled out for today, Sunday, at the end of week 17. I mentioned in yesterday's video, which I'll link to here, where I thought it's possible you're only going to get 2 games out of Wall. Well, if he's resting today, Sunday, that means he's probably playing in the other back-to-back, which means you'll probably get 3 games. So in your weekly lock league, you probably roll him out. If you're alive, still in the season, and you've been making it this far with Wall, 3 games is probably good enough for you. A lot better than 2, but, be careful there still. John Collins has been approved to come back today as of Sunday. The game hasn't happened yet, so I don't know anything more. But if you've got John Collins, I've got him in a league where I've been worried about it. I jumped in his daily change and plugged him in for today, but weekly lock leagues, don't miss out. If you've been waiting on him and you finally get him back for the playoffs. Switching off of the league news, let's talk about some guys to add. If you watched yesterday's video, my number 1 team to pick up and try and target for this week is the Charlotte Hornets, which makes my number 1 pickup, no matter your format, points, weekly locks, streaming, anything, it's Jalen McDaniels, rostered in 40%. He doesn't shock me in any single stat. Actually, his steals are really good. That's not fair. You pick him up for steals, but he's got 4 games, so great for weekly lock league. All 4 days are on streaming days this coming week. 40% rostered is too low. I get that the roster percentages are different later in the season. Teams have given up and you're kind of set, but Jalen McDaniels might be in your best 8 to 10 players for this coming week if you pick him up. So you can pick him up to stream him because of the way the days fall. But there's a good chance that overall, especially in points leagues, or if you're trying to target steals, that he would be better than a lot of the guys you plan on playing anyway. He should be rostered in most leagues. If you notice, I mentioned steals. That's going to be kind of a theme for the days. I'm going to try and bring up specific stats that help. That's not to say that these guys aren't going to help you in points leagues, because they will. But if you're targeting specific stats because of roto or head-to-head categories matchups, I'm trying to mention it. Someone asked me last week, and I couldn't find the comment to give them credit on last week's video, hey, who should we target for specific stats for the playoffs? Great suggestion. I couldn't find it. I'm going to say maybe it's Ricky Nurse. If it's you, Ricky, congrats. Ricky asked me on yesterday's video to try and give some sleepers for the playoffs. It's hard for me to look all the way out because I'm really going to try and get into the nitty gritty, but I will try to bring you specific people for categories. With that, Daniel Gafford, rostered in 22% of leagues. He's got 4 games this week with Washington. They've got some pretty good matchups, and he's going to help you a lot in blocks, which will also help you in your points leagues. 22%, I think you can pick him up. You can play him. If you're talking about streaming, you can stream Washington this week. I would advise probably picking him up and just playing him all week, but the first half of the week, OKC and Golden State, you like those matchups, but they're not on good streaming days. So if you're not ready to do it, or you want to see what he does, hang on. The end of the week, he gets that Friday-Sunday matchup. OKC Cleveland, you like the OKC matchup, but they're good games on good streaming days. Get some blocks in there at the end of the week. Gafford should at least be on your watch list, and he's available in 3/4 of leagues. After Gafford, it looks like Isaiah Stewart in Detroit is a hot pickup. Detroit's schedule is similar to Washington's, where they play the first 2. They get 4 games this week, so in weekly lock leagues like that. For streaming, they play the first 2 games on the heavy game days, so you might not get him in, and then they end the week with 2 games on the streaming day. So you might want to wait, but he's kind of a hot commodity. Today he's at 30% rostered, but he's playing solid. He had 15 points and 21 boards, then he had 19 and 12. If you can get that for 4 games for the week, especially in the playoffs, that's pretty sweet pickup. So I would look at Isaiah Stewart. If you're not ready to jump on it, I understand it, but make a note of it, pencil it down, make a post-it note that you might want to grab him for the end of the week when you're definitely going to be able to get him in on those streaming days. Also in Detroit, I'd consider Josh Jackson. Is he wowing me in any particular categories? No. I mean, when he gets 29 points and 7 boards like he did 2 games ago, that's pretty sweet for a pickup. He's rostered in 30% of leagues. Detroit's got a solid 4-game week, and it's really about that. I was really looking for who could I recommend for the weekly lock leagues and overall people that you could pick up and probably get a lot of use out of. And I only came up with these 4 names I liked. Came up with a lot of names I didn't like. And I'll rattle off some of those for you at the end too. So if you haven't noticed, I really spent time breaking down this week and when the games are falling because we want to capitalize as much as we can. So a lot of this stuff from here on out is going to be for the daily change leagues. Sorry, weekly lock leagues. I love you. I play in you mostly, but I'm trying to help everyone win. And I really tried to break down, whose schedule's front-loaded, back-loaded. What are we trying to do here? Where can we stream? So that's why I talked about Detroit, but only for the second half of the week. The best streaming teams overall, we talked about yesterday. Charlotte's great. Portland's solid. Orlando, Boston, Brooklyn, they all play at least 3 games on streaming days. So even though Orlando only has 3 games, there's possible that there's some really good pickups there. If Mo Bamba comes back, I like him as an ad. He's 19% rostered. Bamba's missed the majority of the last 3 games. He missed the last 2 games entirely. He only played 3 minutes before that. So I don't know when he's going to be back. Orlando only has 3 games, but all 3 of them fall on good streaming days. They get Atlanta, the Pelicans, and Indiana. They're spread out throughout the week. But at 19% rostered, you might be able to pick him up, use him this week on the streaming days, and he gets 4 games next week. So this could be a piece that you could add and roll throughout your playoffs. It's worth noting, I should show this here, Orlando plays 4 games from here on out. So no matter when your season ends, if Bamba comes back and he's getting you, the last game he played, 21 points and 5 threes. Before that, he had 3 blocks in a game. He had 2 blocks in a game. If you can get 3s, points, and some blocks out of a center available in 80% of leagues, it's a guy I have to recommend. He's hurt right now, so I'm not sure if you're going to get to use him right away, but it's possible that picking him up will provide you dividends for the rest of the playoffs, and he had to make my list. If you're looking for 3s, I mentioned this yesterday, I would give Grayson Allen a strong look. Maybe you don't pick him up right now. Memphis has 4 games, so you can plug him in all week, but if you're trying to stream it, his first 2 games, like Detroit's on the high volume days, not going to work great, but Memphis plays twice over the weekend. I'm including Friday and the weekend. And they're Portland. You like that matchup. You're going to get a lot of 3s. He's widely available. He's like rostered in 1/4 of leagues. If you can't get Grayson Allen only for the second half of the week, maybe you look at Desmond Bane. Bane's a pretty good player. Not going to be as consistent, so I wouldn't want to pick him up and throw him in a weekly lock league. But if you're trying to attack 3s, same team, good matchup against Portland, I could see both of those moves working out for you. I just mentioned Bane. He's only rostered in 5% of leagues, so I'm getting pretty deep down the list. Let's go for it. Malachi Flynn worked out as a suggestion a couple weeks ago, and this week I think he's basically unplayable. Toronto's only got 2 games. Honestly, if you were to cut him, you'd want to try and get him back because he's got 5 games next week, but I wouldn't be wanting to play any Toronto players. Not only does he only have 2 games, Toronto only plays 1 game on a streamable day. The whole team's just really not usable. I'm not cutting everyone from Toronto. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Along the lines of fortune favors the bold, if you're going for it, Charlotte's got the best schedule for streaming. They'll play 4 games for weekly lock leagues. Vernon Carey Jr. just had an awesome game on the 16th. 21 points, 6 rebounds, and a block. He's only rostered in 1% of leagues. When I say awesome, that's not the hot stretch Steph Curry's on. Don't get me wrong. But you can't pick up Steph Curry at all, right? Vernon Carey Jr., 64% from the floor, small sample size. But if you can get him, pick him up, and play him all 4 games, that might help you a lot more than some of the guys that are more established. People are talking about Reggie Jackson for this week because he played well. Well, Paul George is back. The Clippers only have 3 games. Maybe you can stream them on 2 of the games. It's Portland and Houston, so they've got good matchups on 2 of those streaming days. But I don't think you're going to get as much use out of Reggie Jackson. I might roll the dice going deeper on Vernon Carey. Sometimes these moves don't feel like they make sense on the surface, right? Jay Crawford, he wasn't going to be the hottest pickup last week. He worked out great the first game. It was meh the rest of the week. But when you looked at it at the end of the week and you got the most use out of it, he probably brought you more. I could see Vernon Carey being that, but I could also see Vernon Carey being 0s. So you got to be feeling bold. Are you going to lose sleep in the playoffs if you plug someone in and he didn't get you anything? I'd feel more comfortable in a daily change league than a weekly lock league going this deep. Staying in the deep end of the pool, I mentioned picking up Memphis and playing those guys at the end of the week. And in the video, I said maybe you can get a Pelican and kind of make a 4-game week out of like Pelicans and then jumping over to Memphis. How about Naji Marshall? rostered in 9% of leagues. He's coming off a couple games where he almost doubled. He had 16, 11, and 6 with 2 steals. You love that game on the 16th. The game before that, 14, 9, and 4 with 1 block. He had pretty good percentages as well to go with it. 3 threes, 2 threes in those games. Those are solid performances for those two. He's getting over 30 minutes a game in those two. So if you pick him up to start the week, the Pelicans get to play Brooklyn and Orlando on Tuesday and Thursday. They're both streaming days. I would roll the dice, pick up Naji Marshall, and just plan on making a move for the second half of the week because you might not get him in. That the Spurs game, you could try and play it, but they only play 3 games. I would rather plug him in for 2, then cut bait and try and get someone else for the 2 games. And I think you could have a really strong week in your streaming spot there. That's honestly going to wrap up most of who I'm talking about for week 18. If you got some guys you're looking at, leave them in the comments. I'll try and keep up with it, respond. Thomas Satoransky, maybe. Nick Batum, don't love the Clippers schedule, but he's been playing solid. But just because I'm done with this week doesn't mean I'm done with you yet. We mentioned in yesterday's video, we got to look ahead to next week. It's the playoffs. You want to make the moves to pick up now, but we also want to try and stay ahead of the game, hoping that you're winning to make those moves. If you noticed, I didn't bring up any OKC guys on this thing. I mentioned yesterday, Dort looks like a hot pickup. I'm seeing the waiver transactions where he's being added in a lot of spots. I don't love him for this week. OKC only has 3 games. You like it that they play Washington twice, but you're probably not going to get him in there on Monday or Wednesday. So you're really trying to make a move to play one guy on next week, Friday? I don't think so. But depending on your situation, if you're in a bye week, I'd start picking up the OKC guys now because they play 5 games next week. Or depending on how you're looking in the week, maybe you make some moves to get ready for Friday's game, pick up some OKC guys, and then you've got them locked up to roll into next week. The people with 5 games, Dallas, Toronto, OKC. And while you could use Dallas this week, it's not a great schedule. Detroit, okay, but they play the Lakers twice and they only have 3 games. You don't want to use OKC now. You definitely don't want to use Toronto guys. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't be on your watch list. Make a note. They're probably the guys that we're going to be talking about on the videos next week. So Darius Bazley, 43% rostered. Poku's hurt again. Sore arm, he's out, which has brought his ownership down to 22%. Dort, 53%. He's a little high to make the show next week if he stays at that level. But with 5 games, I would want to get on these guys. Don't make their moves right now, but write them down. Be ready because next week, if you're still alive, they could be big help. In Toronto, I look at Khem Birch. He's playing well. He's only rostered in 16% of leagues, so you can add him in most places. Is he going to replace Bouchard? No, probably not, but it looks like he might have jumped ahead of the Aaron Baines. Sorry, Aaron Baines fan club. So at 16% rostered, getting 5 games, even if he only gave you 7.6 rebounds like he just did, but he gets you 3 blocks. Well, if you're going to get 2 to 3 blocks a game across a 5-game week, suddenly you got 10 blocks from a guy you just picked for stream. That could win you that category. And in points leagues, those blocks will add up too. You're just going to get more value out of a guy who's playing that many things. So Toronto, well, not usable this week. Let's look ahead. Khem Birch should make this list next week. I mentioned OKC. I mentioned Toronto. For Dallas, maybe Jalen Brunson, rostered in 26% of leagues. There's nothing here that's going to wow me. I'm not going to say, oh, you're getting 5 games, so you're going to get so many steals. He's not really bringing steals, blocks, really even threes. None of the things you really want. But if you pick him up this week, both those Laker games that I was like, meh, about when they play the Lakers, they are on streaming days, so you might be able to use them on the back half of this week for 2 games and have a guy locked in who's going to play 5 games next week. And if you can get, his stats are going to be inconsistent. 1 assist, 9 assists. 1 assist, 5 assists. But across 5 games, if you're not stressing what each game looks like at the end of the week, you pick up 25 assists or something from this guy because he played 5 games. That could really help you out next week. And I don't think Brunson's going to hurt you too bad anywhere. He's just not going to bring a ton. So you would have to have a streaming spot dedicated to it. That's going to wrap it up for this week and the next week preview. Honorable mentions who didn't quite make the list. Saddiq Bey, rostered 43%. Honestly, I'd probably take Cole Anthony above that. Did I talk about Nick Claxton? Might want to grab Nick Claxton. There's so many names. I don't want this video to go on for 20 minutes and lose you guys. So thank you for watching. Good luck in this important week. Go out, win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you.